very simple game we'll play. Biggest winner, biggest loser. Who's your biggest winner of the round, Sam?
The biggest winner for me is Richmond. Just nourishment of a win. It's been a tough year for them, obviously nearly getting over Carlton in the early part, but it's been some pretty grim viewing from a Richmond fan and as a Richmond player. I think outside the Carlton game, they've been losing by an average of 10 goals a week. So to play in a close game and to get over the line, I think it's a great result for them to get that monkey off the back and start to move on the back half of the year.
And we've got to give Noah Bolter some credit. He does cop a whack because sometimes his decision making on and off the field is a little bit left to be desired, but I thought he was magnificent. His ability to go forward, he looked dangerous, but that final play in particular, he also kicked 3 goals, but that final play where he followed up after the ruck contest, and I think a lot of people would expect Noah Bolter just to bash that on the boot. But he just took half a beat, found the free player out wide to the flank. Don't kick it long, let's go wide, which then led to the Seth Campbell goal, which was the sealer and a great celebration, by the way. But I think we've got to tip our cap to Noah Bolter's game.
Absolutely. And I don't know what's in this soup of the AFL players rating points over the round.
This.
But he was the highest rated player the whole round across all teams, all players. So up there, just above Rosas and Keziah Pickett, and you watch those two play in that game, and that was pretty special. So. Some big props for the big fella. He did really, really well on the weekend, and a huge reason why Richmond won the game, obviously.
Did you notice anything from the Tigers where you went, hang on, let's map that out for 30 games, or did they just won more of the battles across the ground?
I think they just won more battles across the ground. The inside 50 differential was still a little bit worrying, but to be able to escape a game like that and play in we spoke about this last week around West Coast v Richmond, two teams probably in the same weight division at the moment, and both teams needing some nourishment of a win, and who could get that. I think the secondary layer on is to travel as a relatively young team over to Perth it's not an easy thing to do. So to go over there, weather the storm in terms of the inside 50 differential, to be able to then to win, it's a big result for the Richmond Footy Club.
Need to stop their injury troubles as well. We want to see this group of players play 30 to 40 games together so we can make some judgment, and Adam Uze would be thinking the same thing. Biggest loser, sounds so harsh when you say it like that, but biggest loser of the round?
It has to be my Blues. Just a really rough viewing week as a supporter, definitely. But you would have listened to Vossi speak after the game. The defensive intent was the big downer in this one for them. 60% scores against inside 50 is an astronomical number. You want that sitting around the 40%, but every 6 of 10 entries St Kilda scored on the weekend. Admittingly, they're the best team in the comp at the moment. But one of the worst sort of defensive games from Carlton for the year. The defensive transition numbers against were up there with the North Melbourne game, which it looked pretty similar in many aspects to that game. So, rough week for the club. Rough week on the leaders at the moment, from coaches through to players, and they need to tidy that one up moving forward.
I've got a question for you in a second on Carlton, what they can do moving forward. But Mario's given us a call. Good evening, Mario.
Very good afternoon, Demetrios Bartel and Sam Docherty, one of the greatest players that play for a 400 Royal Parade. 3 things need to be done. They need to go after Chuck Norris. Chris Scott, who turned 50 yesterday, has still got at least 15 years of coaching. So that means Brad Scott's got 15 years of coaching. But I'd take Chris Scott, Chuck Norris. You go after Zach Butters, you give him number 1, and immediately you clean out some of the crap that's in there. I went to Princess Park on Saturday, watched the Magoos. Don't get carried away with number 76, Cody Walker. Nothing spectacular there. He's like his brother. 1 speck in, that's about it. Like his dad. 1 speck in, that's about it. Go and get the players that we need to win the premiership now, right now. 31 years since we won a flag, and you know what? 31 years since Fremantle came into the competition, and don't be surprised Freo win the premiership this year.
Thanks for your thoughts, Mario. They're always strong. His 3-step plan: get Chuck Norris, a.k.a. Chris Scott, get Zach Butters, and no poop. It's a pretty strong plan.
It's a sound plan, isn't it? There's a lot of decisions that need to be made at the club over the next little while in terms of coaching and playing. And when you have a really bad week on the field, that's where all the conversations start to come from the external point of view, and listening to a lot of them at the moment. There's a lot of ideas and a lot of suggestions of what the club should do, and I think everything at the moment will be discussed internally about what's the plan moving forward. And I think from a player, a supporter's perspective, I think understanding what the plan is important for the fans out there at the moment, because there's losing a lot of hope in what's going on. So it'll be interesting I don't know what the next 6 weeks look like, but until the buy at the club, I know roughly who they're playing, but we'll wait and see. I think from a club's perspective, I think they need to come out and give the fans an idea about where the club's heading and what the plan is moving forward.
Round 13 is going to be a fascinating matchup because we could possibly have Essendon and Carlton 1-12, with Carlton heading into the bye. From a leader and a playing point of view, how do you generate that energy? So obviously the coaching, the plan, the structure, but you've got to generate some energy to want to defend. And you guys famously did Camp Curnow, and you got a fair bit of buzz and momentum off the back of that. What can you do as a leader? Can you go to the coaches and go, look, we need to liven it up, or do we need to go the other way and the mouth guards to training? How do you generate that energy?
Well, I think that ultimately there is circuit breakers you can do. The Camp Curnow is a funny one that we went down the coast, but a lot of what we did then was around just getting alignment with everyone. For everything I hear from the club is the energy during the week and everything is week to week. They're staying process driven, and they're trying to stay on that track. But so I don't think from that perspective, I've been involved in other times at the club where the energy in the club is matching what is happening in the external. So I think they're working and they're understanding where they're at. The hard part at the moment is the inability to change much at the moment. That's the most worrying sign in terms of the game plan, the players on the field, the coaching, all of that soup, we'll call it. But the inability to reverse what's been a consistent theme over the year is just a really worrying sign. And as you said, whether you're pointing that at structure, whether you're pointing that at players' decisions, or you're putting that as a mental monkey on the back, it's probably a mixture of all. But it's having been in these times, it's a real tough one to be in. You got to take a long, hard look at your area, your individual space, your line, and then obviously the team, and start to put in a plan of how to get yourself out of the rut.
Dean's giving us a buzz. Good evening, Dean.
G'day, Jimmy. Sam, how are you guys?
Great. What do you got for us?
That's good. Long-time Carlton supporter. My old man played for the Carlton Football Club in the early 50s. But the point I want to make is the most important thing within a club is the culture. And from my perspective, the Carlton club, culturally, they're all over the shop. And you've got to have a club where the players want to play for the club and have that level of desire to get the outcomes. And there's a number of things amiss within the club at the moment. Sam, from your perspective, when you left the club, what would you say about the culture of the Carlton Football Club, and what do you think was actually missing? Because there seems to be a lot of things that are just not right.
Yeah, well, ultimately, as I'm not at the club and not privy to all of the conversations that happen internally. But my biggest thing last year was just around the alignment of the football club, whether it be players, coaches, administrators, or the like. It's about everyone going in the right direction. And ultimately, there was times last year that wasn't happening. If you listen to Vossi's speech around in the best and fairest speech around culturally killing yourselves, it's making sure everyone is aligned and everyone's having the conversations, having the safety to do it in a constructive way, but then everyone's listening and moving forward together. And that was the crux of my when I left last year, and that's my opinion. But what was missing, I think they've changed a lot of that, and you listen to them speak a lot over the pre-season around the energy shift and the new Carlton, and we're going to play in a new way. The disappointing thing off the back of that is there was a lot of this conversation had over pre-season, and then ultimately it's produced a pretty similar product to what it was last year. And ultimately the wins and losses aren't coming, the nourishment's not coming, and that's the hard thing with AFL footy. It's a cutthroat industry that's built off wins and losses, and at the moment they're in a really tough spot with a really tough game this week. I'm actually going up, but it's ultimately internally they'd be having all these conversations right now, and they'd be trying to formulate a plan of what's next. And I guarantee this is board, CEO, footy manager, everyone's had their 2 cents worth. It's about all coming together and going through the same process together.
Thanks for your call, Dean. Sam's up next. Good evening, Sam.
been as a player. He obviously just couldn't get the message across to his team. I reckon the season's finished for Carlton. I reckon they're done. I reckon they need to start planning for next year. And as much as this would kill me as a Collingwood supporter, they should get Scott Pendlebury in there for next year as an assistant coach. Get him even playing for a year. They need to be taught how to do the right things the right way, and get a seasoned coach who knows how to get the job done, like John Longmire, to set things up for the next 3 years, and then Scott Pendlebury just walk in and be the head coach. That is planning ahead, and they need to do that now. Either that or someone like Corey Enright who knows how to get the job done, who's been in a winning situation and can possibly set them up. This year is finished. They're broken. They don't know how to win. They don't have the energy to win. They don't have the desire to win. They drop their heads. They play half a game and they just chuck it in when it gets a bit hard. They need to learn how to get it done for the whole game, not just bits and pieces. And Michael Voss doesn't deserve it as a player that he was. They're just not doing clearly what he wants them to do, so they need to plan from now.
So thanks for your call, Sam. I don't think the Collingwood faithful would let Scott Pendlebury run around in a Carlton jumper, maybe an assistant coach before they'd hope he'd bounce back to Collingwood in some sort of capacity. But look, Scott Pendlebury, when he ever retires, it might be in 25 years, the rate he's going, will be a hot commodity. Harry, you're up next. Good evening, Harry.
G'day, Jimmy. G'day, Doc. Mate, we're missing you on the field. Well, not we. The AFL world's missing you on the field, mate. I hope you have a good retirement. Listen to Carlton and Essendon supporters, more so Carlton at the moment. As a St Kilda supporter, I just got to say the football world goes in cycles. You've got to be resilient. You've got to stick to your club. You know, it's like a marriage. Now, if you want to go out and divorce your club, great. Go down the pub and tell them that you're supporting a second club. See how many mates you've got. You got to stick and take the good with the bad. Because I remember Carlton in '95 or '96 they won some finals which they shouldn't have won because they had under the table payments. They're not talking about the extra grand finals they won then, are they? So just stick, right? It'll come good at some point in time.
Great advice, Harry, and well done to your Saints. They are looking very sharp. Let's talk about Port Adelaide really quickly. They went down, but they've been more impressive than we thought. Melbourne and Port Adelaide, expectation to performance, both of them have shot the lights out, I think, to this stage. Yeah,
both. And both playing the modern game that everyone is expecting to play these days. They're both really good in transition. I'll just go from Port first. I did a deep dive on them a few weeks ago, and I was so surprised at how well they were going statistically across the board. They were getting let down in one category of the game, which is basically contested possession and clearance. In the last few weeks, they've got to a point where they're not smashing it off the park, but they're just neutralising that part of the game. And since they've neutralised that part of the game, their ball movement and their ability to transition, they got a very, very dangerous forward line, which I don't think anyone really expected that was going to be at the start of the year. And when they get it in there, I think just props has to go to Josh Carr to be able to turn what they were last year into what they are this year, and equally the same conversation with Melbourne. But I love what they're doing. The showdown, we're just talking the doubleheader, I absolutely hate the doubleheaders. Trying to flick between those two games, which were two crackers on Friday night, and try and follow along was so frustrating. But just the showdown was unbelievable game of footy. Yeah,
Port Adelaide, what surprised me, I got to watch them live, is how quickly they set up behind the ball. And this is what is the failing of a couple of bottom place teams. They clearly know what they want to do defensively. Now, if they get beaten, they're still doing it their way and they can work on it. But they're sort of gone to running just with one key back, which is Aaliyah, who's been sensational. So Lockie Jones punches above his weight. He's a big, strong brute of a young man. But what used to be their biggest flaw, which was ground balls in their back 50 because they'd run with three tools in the back line with Radicale and Zerk Thatcher, it's now flipped on its head. And it's become a strength of theirs, and they get up really quickly because obviously they're not as top-heavy. So they set the ground up really quickly. Now, they might get exposed at different times. I thought they would have got exposed on the weekend, but they kept Thilthorpe under wraps. I know Tech's got a hammy and there's no big defog there, but they've actually been able to get away with almost one key back and actually elevated their game.
Yeah, 1v, that's a knock on their side at the moment, is they're one of the worst 1v1 losses in the comp. What they do well, though, is they try not to get in too many 1v1s. Their defensive system works really hard, and it does. It sets up both parts of their game. It allows them to win the ground ball in the back half. It allows them to transition really well because they've got smaller players, more leg speed, more kicking skills. And then, as you said, they're able to actually play that front half game quite well because then the system catches up quite easily in the forward half. So, as I said, I'm marvelling at what Josh Carr's done with his team this year, and it's not like they've had all their cattle out there. Rosie's been out as well, and they've missed players through injury, and they're just stumping up and playing really well most of the year, to be honest.
G'day, Tony. How are you going as a Carlton man today? You'd be pretty flat.
Saturday night was hard. It kind of all these firebombings and everything. Watching Carlton is you harken back to a time when Victoria was stable and well led and well managed, and Carlton doing well was a part of Victoria that I remember that just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of Carlton supporters go to the aisles quickly, don't they? Geez, they're leaving early.
We've seen it all before. We've played the course before. We know it too well. Carlton don't come back from 8-goal run-ons. 5 free kicks in the centre bounce in one quarter. Why?
Yeah, it's madness.
Can you explain that?
But the issue now, obviously, is Michael Voss.
Yeah.
I've been around a long time, sort of covering all these type of things, coach sackings, waiting for coaches to be sacked. I think at the moment, Michael Voss, it's clear he's dead in the water. It's inevitable what will happen to Michael Voss. There's no way out at this stage for Vossi, particularly with a fixture coming ahead. So last week we were shocked when Paul Guerra was sacked as coach of, not coach, but CEO of Melbourne. I wouldn't be shocked at all if something happened with Vossi this week, next week. It's just a matter of time. It could happen today, Tony, because it just seems to have a whiff of death about it, unfortunately.
But then is anybody on the board then accountable? Well, the board part of the problem?
Well, they all have to be accountable eventually. They maybe review themselves. Will they review Vossi in the round 14 bye? When will they do it? How long can you hang on? Do you put a caretaker in for this long? That's the issue. If you put a caretaker in for too long, Tony, they can actually be successful. And that can be the worst thing that can be happening. So, but you suddenly have a spurt from a caretaker.
Yeah.
It's an artificial sugar hit.
Sure.
And then it confuses things. So maybe Vossi goes on a bit longer, but I've never seen a coach so inevitably in a bad position. Everything's aligning against Vossi at the moment. Maybe Mick Malthouse at Carlton, you could see that coming.
Yeah.
But this one's even a slower death. And it's a sad, in footy terms, a great person, Vossi.
I don't deny that for a second, and I don't think sacking him will make any difference. There's something obviously wrong with the playing group, or is it the game style?
Well, it's the cattle. I think the players can't transition enough as far as fitness, running, game style, very much a sameness about it. Not getting enough from, obviously, guys like Harry Mackay. So there's certainly issues at Carlton. And I feel for Vossi turning up to work every Monday, reviewing this, Tony. How do you get around that?
That's a very good point. It would be a bit like it's May the 4th, when they destroy the planet Alderaan. And somebody was in charge of defending the planet Alderaan and it got vaporised. Now, on the Monday morning after Alderaan was vaporised, they would have had that kind of meeting, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
They would look at the pros and cons. They'd look at what they did well, defending Alderaan, which was nothing, and they'd look at what they did badly, which was everything.
Yeah. So what would you do? You'd just go to the pub, wouldn't you? You'd have the old-fashioned get-together. We're not training this week.
Yeah.
We'll shoot off to Dalesford or something, maybe go to a local
Norton's.
pub. And Norton's, as Sticks, maybe get him to sing a song or two.
That's maybe
just
what they
to
need.
Change things. They need a circuit breaker, clearly. But I do feel for Vossi, but it is inevitable that something will happen in that area.
Peter, good afternoon.
Hi, Tony. Look, I feel for Michael Voss. He's one of the nice coaches. But being nice doesn't get you a lot if things are going bad. Now, I was going to call Tom this morning, but I couldn't get on. I was there Saturday night, and I knew there'd be a bit of bullying and hoo-haing with the 2 ex-Carlton players, Silvani and I think it's Docherty.
Docherty, yeah.
But it got a bit rough. People started near me, and they were middle-aged people really getting stuck into Silvani, and then they started on his family. Then I drew the line.
That's not okay.
So I got stuck into them, so they quickly did their hamper and folded their little cakes and coffee up, and they moved because I thought that is not on.
What, having a hamper at the footy? That's probably not on either.
No, probably not. But listen, the old days in Tasmania, I always went with my auntie and my grandmother. They would roll out a smorgasbord, and I always waited till half time till I got that serve, and it was fabulous. But they don't do that anymore.
No, but you're right about that behaviour. That should be texted to the relevant people and they should be booted out.
That is appalling to get stuck into, Silvani, about that, or to get stuck into either of them. I wish them both well. I really do, and I loved both of them when they wore the dark navy blue. Peter, thank you. Dean, good afternoon.
G'day, Tony. Look,
sorry, you're Dean. Dean, I'm so sorry.
Hi.
Dean, go ahead.
Hey, Tony. The unfortunate thing for Michael Voss is obviously a quality person. There are other things outside of footy issues that are mounting up, which he doesn't directly control, but Graham Wright has to think about because they're under his remit as a CEO. Like membership numbers, we're already 16,000 down year on year, possibly 20% if you go back to 2024. Think of, president's functions, corporate match day functions for the rest of the year, which I would imagine the attendances are already dropping, general match day attendances, TV ratings, which corporate partners look at as a key club performance indicator. So, it's not directly his fault, but it kind of is because it's all related to team performance. So I just don't see how he escapes, unfortunately.
No, you're right. You get pushed off prime time as well. There's no Thursday night, Friday night footy. They're about to bring out another fixture. Carlton will be pushed right back there. So, and vision of people leaving the aisles and leaving the ground early, and that's happening every week for Carlton. That really hurts the brand. So how long can you hang on, Tony? How long can you hang on if you're Carlton? As I said, I think it could happen at any time. Dean,
sacking Voss will achieve what exactly?
It's the best way to describe it, I think. Are you Game of Thrones fan, Tony?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm I'm adjacent.
Yes, that whole break the wheel thing for a start. I think you can tell it is having an impact on the players, no matter how much they say they love him and they're still playing for him.
Yeah.
It's a break the wheel psychologically for them, but also for members and fans. As I've been following Carlton properly since 1978 or 76, since I was 10 years of age, and I've never seen anything like this where Carlton people are saying, not watching games, not watching any footy shows, not watching any podcasts on YouTube, all this sort of stuff. People are now pulling away in wholesale numbers because it's just too torturous for your mental health.
Yeah, true. Every third quarter is a red wedding, just to keep the Game of Thrones analogy going. Dean, thank you. And I honestly believe you speak for, I would say, 90% of Carlton supporters at the moment, except the diehards.
Yeah, they're hanging in there, the diehards. And like yourself, you still watching, Tony, or are you watching?
I went to the pub.
Movies at Netflix?
Well, no, I saw it at the pub, the local pub, serenaded by a band that were doing to hits of the 80s what is done to cattle on the floor of a slaughterhouse. That was my soundtrack to a really dismal.
Always work.
No, not in the hands of these musicians, and I struggle to call them that. So I had that going behind me while watching the unfolding horror that was the third quarter with Saints v Carlton. Now, how about this? We'll pivot from that to a name, Malcolm Rosas Jr. Tell us more.
Well, he kicked 7 yesterday for the Swans. It just picked up from the Suns, basically for a packet of peanuts in the trade. So he kicked 5 to half-time, another 2 after half-time. Sensational small forward, exactly what any club wants. So the bargain buy, and that just got me thinking, some of these bolt from the blue players, Tony, who have come in, and I can remember one at Carlton. Maybe had a big first half.
Would that be a 1970? Was it that one?
Beaumont.
Oh, Simon Beaumont.
1999 versus Collingwood. Kicked 8 in the first half. Didn't kick another after half time, but I reckon he still got best on ground.
133 I think his career didn't flourish under Dennis Pagan from memory. Do you remember that?
There were a few actually in that regard, but that happens with all coaches.
That's true. So, look, players who came made a splash. One, I don't want to call Simon Beaumont had a great career at Carlton and Hawthorn.
But that's a big splash, 8.5.
That's a very good one.
We didn't see it coming.
No, but so players known for one game. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I've got another Collingwood one in mind.
Could we hear it, please?
Mark McGough, Anzac Day.
Okay, what year?
2002. And I remember the TV networks went to him afterwards or the next day to do a story. Northcote High School. He was still in year 12. It was his second game.
Oh, well done. 133 Schoolboys who've starred in great games. 93, Essendon's full back. was doing VCE.
I reckon that was Dustin Fletcher.
It certainly was.
He went on to win a flag that year.
Extraordinary. 133693. Now, Chris Fagan and the whiteboard scandal. Steve-O, your take on that, please.
Well, it was unfortunate. I mean, but if you're going to allow people through a community facility, you don't have that sort of info on whiteboards. It's a taxpayer-funded facility. Half of it's a community, so they like to be inclusive. They have an Auskick parent comes through, takes a photo, bingo. I wasn't that offended by what was on it. I have got a bit of a story in my time that I can maybe tell a bit later where some info got out that I saw and was able to report. But I think the Brisbane Lions should have either wiped it, turned it around. Nothing too offensive for me. But we love talking about these issues in footy. They overtake the game.
Now, Steve-O, you were talking about the coaching woes at Carlton. Bruno has an idea, courtesy of the email, afternoons@3w.com.au. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, go for it, Tony.
Tony, there is a very successful coach who is also a Carlton supporter who needs a job. Put in Ange.
Yeah, why not? That's been floated. He does need
Seriously?
a job. He could get everyone together. It's man management. They say that games are won during the week. Maybe you just do that. He just turns up and has a meat pie on game day.
We'll have to work on our what would you call it, our chanting.
Yeah.
And pronunciation too. Let's not get that wrong. We were talking about players who have torn games apart. They're known for one game in particular. So we saw that over the weekend that Sydney were able to unearth a goal sneak extraordinaire, courtesy of some amazing delivery from that platinum level midfield.
Yeah, and half back. Of course, they got the lizard running through the corridor there. They look good, Sydney, don't they? But someone would cheer you up. Teddy Hopkins is the famous one.
From 1970, yes.
That has to cheer you up. You're 7 goals down at half time.
Yeah.
He comes on in those days. He's on the bench just as a reserve. Hadn't done anything. Hadn't been on the ground and kicks 4 after half time. 3 in the third, another in the last just to cap it off. That's probably the most famous.
It would have to be. And that is... well, in the modern era, I don't remember, and my memory's not great for such things, so if you can tell me maybe 133693, a deficit the Carlton has overhauled. It just doesn't happen very often.
No, it's normally the other way around.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened for a long time. To think you weren't that far from a grand final that long ago, that prelim final.
Well, as Dean pointed out, the caller, membership 2024, that was after the prelim final of 2023. It seems like light years away. It is May the 4th, so that's maybe the terms we have to talk in.
The other one's Carmichael Hunt. Remember him? You've got to be careful how you say that.
Thank you.
But after the siren, 25 metres out, he was obviously a rugby league project. Ended up in on the Gold Coast.
Yes, Gold Coast Suns.
Knocked over Richmond in Cairns. So that was a famous one. Wobbled it through from 25 metres in 2012.
Great kick under pressure. He will be known for that, also having the scariest name in football commentary. I'm sure Dennis Cometti, as he's laid to rest, will be very pleased he never stumbled over that one.
You need to be careful. There has been a few expletives given out on TV of late. Even my mate Mitch Cleary, the journo, let one slip. And we've seen players let it slip. It's a standard sort of drop, Tony, with this sort of thing. Is it acceptable now? Not that we're going to start dropping bombs, but it seems to be happening more often.
It's true.
Should players be fined for it?
That's a very good question. Given that you can hear pretty much anything on TV now, I remember years ago, it was a long time ago, when a Dirty Harry movie was on and a character's rant at Dirty Harry was censored so that Dirty Harry was told that he was dog food.
Right.
Instead of something else.
Right. Okay.
That was a tamer time, but these days, anything goes.
Anything goes, even on the national broadcast. People laugh it off. You know when there's a mic on, Tony, you've got to be careful.
Well, yes, you should, because your grandmother might be listening.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter that she was a wharfie, she still might be listening. Steve-O, stay where you are. We'll get to calls in a moment. 133693. We want to know players known for one game. Not that they were, just that a game that they specifically tore apart. 133693. Or if you've got some suggestions about how to fix Carlton's coaching woes, we're open to those too. He's been a little bit nervous because he knows I did a self-defence course over the weekend, so I'm literally a lethal weapon.
What form was it? Tai Chi or
No,
Taekwondo?
I always get the name. Krav Maga, and Dave Krav Maga, and my instructor Dave will be in after 1 to assess my performance.
What's the specialty? You do a chicken wing on somebody?
No, fetal position, and he said in my case, just tell everyone who attacks you that you're pregnant.
Right.
Anyway, I'll speak to Dave from Krav Maga after 1. But Dom, you've got a question. You've got a great nomination in response to Marco's question. Go ahead.
I reckon Shane Allen in the Crows Premiership, he kicked 5 goals, and I think he even played off the half-back line. He came from the Dogs, and it was amazing. I don't think he ever did much after that, but 5 goals in the grand final, Shane Allen basically from the half-back line helped him win the premiership.
Yeah, basically he'd never played forward before. Spent a bit of time forward in that game, but sometimes down back, but was just a dour defender at the Bulldogs, and odds on him kicking 5 in a grand final was 1,000,000 to 1.
And
Saints
as a Bulldog
fans.
supporter, are you thrilled that he...
I was thrilled for him on the day, but I was still flat after the prelim the week before.
That's got to hurt.
Oh, that hurt. But the Dogs winning a flag is taking that all away. I still feel for St Kilda supporters that are just hoping. Like, you think you're doing it bad at Carlton. At least you've seen one, Tony.
That's true. And they're at 60 years, aren't they?
66
60,
plus
61?
60 years.